Good afternoon. Today, I will be presenting my individual oral commentary on one of Frost's works, Acquainted with the Night, which was published in 1928. Frost is a highly acclaimed writer for his masterfully crafted poems containing high usage of figurative language, imagery, and strategic structure relevant to the overall theme. The ideas he tries to convey are universal and often incorporate dualities and elements of his own life. Many readers have concluded that the deaths of his children are reflected through Acquainted with the Night. This is revealed through the theme that despite being physically surrounded by others, loneliness and pessimism prevail in uninviting environments because of closed attitudes. This can be demonstrated through his language, structure, and technique in figurative language. To begin with, language is utilized by Frost to exemplify the idea of isolation persisting in unwelcoming situations. In line 2, he describes walking out in rain and back in rain. The distinction of the two highlights the pessimistic attitude often associated with rain that the speaker is experiencing. He always returns to this state, despite escaping for a fleeting moment. It reveals the cyclic nature of sadness and inevitable coming back. Similarly, the setting of the poem, taking place during the night, contributes to this idea of eventual return. Despite the night constantly coming to an end, the closing of the day welcomes it once again. The sense of timelessness is evident in lines 13 to 14. The concept of time has lost its significance to the speaker as he embraces what he can no longer suppress or escape. Through this, readers are able to identify the hopelessness that he is feeling. The speaker's downbeat emotions are further communicated in the next line as he outwalked the furthest city light. This provides this visual image of going beyond familiarity and leaving behind comfort. Despite his occasional escape from this mindset, he has surpassed the possibility of making a permanent exit. His defeated attitude toward the matter has pushed him further into this depression, or from city lights symbolizing human interaction and connection. In line 12, the speaker references the moon as a luminary clock against the sky, and Frost's intent for this is for the audience to make this association of the clock and rhythm motion, similar to the idea of the cycle. There is this constant, steady beat underlying the simple words on the page. It goes beyond this, and this regular pattern, as noted throughout, can be viewed as expected and not interesting. The lack of interest in these aspects supports the notion that loneliness and negativity are inescapable in the eyes of the speaker. Again, the hindrance of interest in time and life reoccurs. He perceives the moon as this clock, but has come to believe that it holds no importance. Time seems to blend as the meaningless days and nights pass by. Moving on to structure, the poem is formatted in 5 terza-rimas, with only 2 lines in the last stanza. This progressive loosening relates to the steady continuation of the speaker delving into his darkness and loss of motivation. Further enhancing this idea of isolation is Frost's utilization of caesuras and end stops. The interruption of thought and word flow in lines such as 1, 2, and 6 highlight the separation of the speaker from community and fellow companions. The poem resembles a sonnet with iambic pentameter, 14 lines, and a couplet. The relative adherence to this rhythm mimics the 3 sounds addressed through auditory imagery in the poem. These include the noise of the rain, feet, and clock. With the repetitive rhythm of the poem's structure, the speaker's loss of purpose and interest are focused on, as life through his perspective is comprised of only menial and mundane tasks. With no ultimate purpose or end goal, the hopelessness and despair of the speaker are conveyed. For the first 4 stanzas, they are categorized as tercets. However, the last contains only 2 lines and is a couplet. From this abnormal break in regular structure, the audience can gather the stressed indifference that the speaker currently has toward time and life. The change in number of lines in the stanza signifies him ceasing to care. Finally, the poem reveals the theme of the persistent nature of alienation and disconnection through technique and figurative language. For instance, anaphora is used in lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 14. The repeating phrase, I have, beginning these lines, is written in present perfect tense, and its recurrence points out the completion of these actions and continuation of them. These doings have taken place in the past, but are ongoing. It relates to the persistence of desolation during dark times. In line 7, alliteration of the S sound found in the words stood, still, stopped, and sound is a crucial element in the transition from predominantly visual imagery to auditory. The description is initially of the character searching for an acquaintance in the night, such as when he looked down the saddest city lane in line 4. The shift to him hearing the wailing cries and noises of the night, rather than predominantly seeing this experience, occurs in line 7. For instance, in lines 11 to 12, the sound of the moon as a luminary clock provides an addition to the auditory imagery of the interrupted cry in line 8. The piercing sounds breaking the silence of the night carry the meaning of his reliance on his other senses when darkness consumes the night and overwhelms his eyesight. The irony of the title in the last line of the poem stresses the unknown and pessimism of the situation. Having been acquainted with something implies recognition and familiarity. This notion of awareness is juxtaposed by what the night represents. The night is associated with foreignness and loneliness. It focuses on the depths of darkness that the speaker has submerged himself in. Purposefully relating back to the theme, Frost contrasts these opposing ideas to convey that although not facing physical solitude, an individual can express feelings of loneliness and melancholy.